A vast convoy of Russian armoured vehicles, stretched out over tens of kilometres, is advancing on Kyiv, Ukraine's capital. The city has been hit by numerous missiles. Russia has warned there's more to come. Those who haven't fled are prepared for a gruelling siege. Many are ready to fight.
If the convoy actually does press into the city, it will meet extremely determined resistance.
The Economist's correspondent, Tim Judah, is in Kyiv.
I spent time with the Territorial Defence Force, which is the new force of civilians. There are thousands of them. You meet them absolutely all over the place, and they are extremely ready to fight. At various key points around the city, the Territorial Defence has dug trenches, and the other thing that's been done are that checkpoints have been put across, major roads. That's to say, we've got sort of cranes arriving with kind of big concrete blocks which are being dropped onto the road, and tank traps, big metal tank traps, steel tank traps, are also being put on the road. I went to see a Molotov cocktail factory, and the people who were making the Molotov cocktails were all volunteers. Every single one of them was a volunteer. And there were really dozens of people down there in a kind of production line with wine and beer bottles, wine or beer bottles or vodka bottles, making Molotov cocktails. And the other type of preparation, or the anti-preparations, is just people leaving. And I think hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have left the city. How many? It's impossible to say. But really the city is very, very empty. I went to the central station to see, there were still lots and lots of people leaving. And in fact, there still are lots of people. People are basically turning up, and the timetable, there's no more timetable. It's just that when there's a train going to the west, the people who can get on it can get on it. And amongst the people I met actually in the station were a group of 8 Indian students, and the students actually had been living very close to the TV tower. Then they'd heard the explosions, and one said, this was pretty scary, so we decided it was time to leave, and we think this is probably the last opportunity to leave because the Russians are coming. Well, ordinary life has really completely transformed in a week. First of all, very few people are working. There's nothing normal is functioning. Everything is shut in this city. The only things that are open are some supermarkets, and there are queues in front of them. There are some other smaller food shops open. There are less queues, I have to say, today than there have been in the last couple of days. There are still queues outside the pharmacies that are open as people try and get prescription drugs, or they try and get any other medicine. But, everything in life, everything has been totally disrupted. Considering that you've got the whole might of the Russian army bearing down on you, the fact is that the Ukrainian army is kind of almost winning by not losing. It doesn't mean that they won't be defeated eventually, but it's done incredibly well, far better than anybody expected. And certainly, far better than anybody expected, and including Ukrainians themselves, I think. Ukrainians themselves have been surprised by how well their forces are doing, and that means that morale has been pretty high. I think people have been amazed by Zelensky. He's just kind of grown into this, unexpectedly, into this kind of inspiring wartime leader. I think kind of Ukrainians are basically shocked, or the ones that I've met are shocked and delighted by that. He's a younger generation. He's a man in his 40s. I say younger, I'm comparing him to Putin, of course. So what we've seen is this kind of angry Putin. And here's Zelensky, coming out of unshaven, wearing a sort of khaki T-shirt, doing a selfie going, we're here, it's false news, we haven't fled at all, and we're here to defend Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini.
People like that. And in general, I think people are pretty they're pretty amazed and inspired by their president. Everybody in Kyiv is looking at their phones all the time, which is perhaps no different from anywhere else in the world. But a lot of what they're looking at is social media about the war and the latest developments. And so a lot of what they're sharing and a lot of what's boosting morale are various, videos, for example, in the town of Berdyansk, which is a small port in the south occupied by the Russians. Russian soldiers took up, they were sort of lining up in front of the town hall, and people, really quite a large crowd was in front of them shouting, "Go home, go home, go home." Another one which is doing the rounds, which has been inspiring people. You see the car coming up to past a convoy of armoured cars, and she literally just takes out a Molotov cocktail and chucks it at the tyre of the armoured car, and then the tyre of the armoured car just bursts into flames. So I think this is one thing that's keeping people informed and keeping people's morale up. I don't think people really know what to expect next. I think that everybody in this city, almost everybody in this city was in complete denial that anything at all was about to happen, first of all. So, now they just they're kind of shocked and they're shocked by what's happened. I mean, they're frightened of attacks. And, I, as a journalist and somebody who talks to analysts, etc., can freely admit that I got it completely wrong. I never thought that Putin would go this far and launch the all-out invasion to basically destroy Ukraine in its entirety. I thought there might have been some sort of limited operation, but I never expected this when it comes to what Putin's thinking and what he's about to do. There's only one person who knows what he's going to do next, and that's Putin. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying. This is a personal regime. He's in charge, and only he knows what to expect. I can actually hear the sirens have gone off, so I think I'm going to leave you now.
Thank you for watching. For all our coverage on the war in Ukraine, please click on the link and don't forget to subscribe.